to Werezilla's Retrospective. I'm your host, Werezilla. Unless you've been living in an underground bunker... Actually, I take that back. You're probably more likely to be familiar with the Fallout series if you are.
Inspired by the post-apocalyptic setting of the Mad Max films, the Fallout games brings players into what's left of America after the bombs have fallen, leaving it a radioactive wasteland, ripe with all kinds of dangers, but also new civilizations bringing themselves into fruition in hopes of not repeating the mistakes of the past.
At least that was the intention of the games when it was in the hands of its original designers, Black Isle. Things took a slightly different approach in the later years.
Let me put it this way, we had our world-building events in the first Fallout. Fallout 2 gave us the aftermath and how the inhabitants of California have improved in the intervening decades. This was also put into play as we spread out further into the country during the events of Fallout Tactics. World building, however, wasn't the primary intentions of Bethesda, the new developers for Fallout 3. Remember that these are the guys who made Oblivion and Skyrim, two games that work great as exploratory experiences. They are people who believe in simple stories and arguably even simpler characters, so gamers have the freedom to do whatever they feel like in a wide open world.
So bringing the immersive world of Fallout into the hands of people who don't believe in consequence may not seem like the right call initially, but it's not as bad as you would think.
After the time-honored tradition of opening the game with Ron Perlman saying,
War never changes.
We have an inventive character creation segment involving the birth of your character. Though frankly, no matter how hard you try to fix it, your future appearance will look like they stepped out of the uncanny valley. So after your appearance, name, and gender are decided, things get a little awkward when your mother dies of cardiac arrest. I remind you, your father is played by Liam Neeson, who became a widower himself the year after this game came out. But on to slightly less depressing events. The prologue shows moments throughout the protagonist's life in one of the many underground vaults, Vault 101 specifically. Oh, I see what you did there. Where everyone inhabiting the vault is all but brainwashed into worshipping their overseer. Still, you and your dad are living a fairly decent life until you are 19, when he leaves the vault without warning, and the overseer tries to have you killed for no reason. With the help of your childhood friend Amada, you manage to escape, arriving on the surface, which turns out to be the still smoldering ruins of Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas.
Now, it's been 200 years since the world got nuked, and based on what happened in previous games, you would think there'd be some kind of new civilization living in what's left of DC by now. Well...
There is Megaton, the first town you visit in the game, Canterbury Commons, some ways down, as well as Rivet City a little later on, but for the most part, the Capital Wasteland is rather devoid of civilization. Now, when writing this review, I almost wrote devoid of life, but that's not true. Right off the bat, you will encounter generic raiders pretty much every step of the way. There's no real reason given why they feel the need to attack everything and everyone on sight. Now, I get the reasoning. Players need something to fight, or else the trek across the wasteland will bore certain players. However, I'm not sure why we need generic raiders when there are all manner of radioactive creatures that could be used for the very same purpose. Generics that attack on sight don't quite have the same impact left by greater groups like the Vipers or the Khans. Moving on, our first stop is the town of Megaton, a shanty town that was built around an unexploded nuke. You're probably wondering who in their right mind would build a town around a bomb. Well, for the most part, the inhabitants just go about their day paying no attention to it, but there is actually a group who worship the thing.
We kneel before it and ask that Atom call us to aid him. We pray that out of our meager bodies, he will create new life.
You know, that actually reminds me of a character from another Bethesda game.
Rise up, children of the Empire. Rise up, Stormcloaks. Embrace the word of mighty Talos, he who is both man and divine.
So after speaking with Moriarty, the owner of the town's saloon, you find out that your dad headed in the direction of the downtown DC ruins in search of Three Dog, a DJ running a radio station in the Capital Wasteland. He also tells you that you and your father were not born in Vault 101 like you've been brainwashed into believing. How well the player character takes this is really up to you. So with Mori already dealt with, the player heads to the downtown area to find Three Dog and hopefully their father. It is here where they encounter a battle between the Brotherhood of Steel and a group of super mutants. Huh? Okay, the Brotherhood I get since their entire philosophy is gather advanced technology, so I can see them traveling further east into the Capital Wasteland. That was even the initial premise of Fallout Tactics. The super mutants, on the other hand, while I can see them wandering the waste looking for a purpose, I can't say they would be actively attacking people nowadays. Especially given their means of creating super mutants, the forced evolutionary virus, was destroyed along with the Master in the first game. So after dealing with a massive super mutant easily twice as tall as the normal ones, which are 10 feet to begin with, we finally get to talk to Three Dog.
Imagine a picture, okay? A picture of the Capital Wasteland. All that brick and rock. A whole lot of nothing, right? There's people out there trying to just barely make it from day to day. Fighting to stay alive and make something out of what they got. But then you've got all kinds of shit. Slavers, super mutants, raiders. They all want a slice of the pie too. And aim to take it by force. They can't, not against those kind of enemies. They just run away and hide, or they stay and die. It just ain't right. So that's where I enter the picture. I fight the good fight with GNR as my gun.
Ever the optimist, Mr. Dog, even if his ideals are a little, abstract. He lets you know that your dad has already headed to Rivet City, currently the most successful civilization in the Capital Wasteland. Given its competition is a town with a bomb in the middle, that's not saying much. Oh, and Three Dog will continue to broadcast your escapades throughout the wastes, either praising you for taking the good path on quests, or condemning you for taking the evil path. Yep, there's a moral choice system in this game, which I'll talk about a little later. Either way, he dubs you the Lone Wanderer.
Sounds like the kind of name the protagonist of an old Western movie would have. Which is funny when you consider it's the next game that takes place in the Mojave.
In Rivet City, the Lone Wanderer meets with their father's old colleague, Dr. Lee, who fills us in on his current whereabouts. So in other words, sorry Lone Wanderer, but your father is in another castle. It's happened 3 times already, so why not have it happen 5 more times before we finally find the guy? So the Lone Wanderer picks up their father's trail at the Jefferson Memorial, listening to his recordings about something called Project Purity, and a vault tech scientist by the name of Braun, who might have the answers he's looking for. Following the trail to Vault 112, the Lone Wanderer discovers the inhabitants in a simulation of a pre-war neighborhood, being tormented by Braun for the past 200 years, all while Braun is in the body of a little girl.
You may better know me as Dr. Stanislaus Braun.
I've chosen a different appearance for myself here, in my own little playground.
Okay, and I thought the game's engine made it seem like the characters had stepped out of the uncanny valley before I heard the grown man's voice coming from a little girl's body.
After dealing with Braun, the Lone Wanderer is finally reunited with their father, who reveals his reasons for leaving the vault, completing Project Purity, which would involve cleaning the irradiated waters of the Capital Wasteland. One he would have succeeded in doing 19 years ago, but...
Progress came to a halt. And then you were born. Your mother and I had talked about what to do when that time came. But then we lost her.
Oh. Poor Liam Neeson. No, that's not a joke! What kind of sick fuck would make a joke like that?